person born in the isolated fjords of Iceland and compare them to someone born on the densely packed urban streets of Tokyo. Now compare those two to a pair of individuals from entirely different ethnic groups within Africa. For example, a Khoisan person from South Africa and a Yoruba person from Nigeria. If we sequence their DNA, the results seem to contradict common sense. The Icelander and the Japanese person are actually more genetically similar to each other than the two individuals from Africa. This visualization compares genetic variance. This massive curve represents the diversity inside a single African village, completely swallowing the tiny spike representing the entire European continent. Physical traits we notice first, skin color, hair texture, eye shape, are less than 1% of our genome. So why does the African continent hold a near monopoly on human genetic diversity, while the rest of the global population is a relatively small genetic subset? For hundreds of thousands of years, the entirety of the human population lived exclusively in Africa. Over successive generations, DNA naturally changes. Mutations happen at a relatively constant rate. Because of this, genetic diversity is largely a function of time. The longer a population stays in one place, breeding and mutating, the more diverse its gene pool becomes. Modern Homo sapiens have lived in Africa for roughly 300,000 years. By contrast, humans have existed in the rest of the world for less than 100,000. Think of the African gene pool over 300,000 years as a massive bowl filling with multicolored marbles, each representing a unique genetic lineage. When humans finally left Africa, they didn't take the whole bowl, they took just a handful. Those few lineages became the genetic starting point for every single person currently living in Europe, Asia, and the Americas. Biologists call this the founder effect. It locked the vast majority of human genetic variation into a private African heritage, one that never crossed the continent's borders. As humans expanded into the Middle East, across Asia, and eventually over the land bridge to the Americas, they passed through a series of sequential genetic bottlenecks. Every time a smaller group splintered off to migrate further into unpopulated territory, they took an even smaller fraction of that original handful of marbles with them. This global heat map illustrates a geographic rule. The further from Africa, the lower the genetic diversity. As diversity cools at every migration waypoint, terminal points like Iceland and Japan end up with the exact same heavily filtered genetic subset. The global expansion of humanity was a subtractive process. Physical distance acted as a strict filter, stripping away variation mile by mile. When we look at an Icelander and a Japanese person today, their visible differences are purely superficial adaptations to their local climates. Underneath those environmental traits, they are pulling from the exact same limited set of marbles carried out of Africa 60,000 years ago. This phylogenetic tree charts our genetic history. The vast majority of deep, complex branching happens exclusively within Africa. Every other population on Earth branches off from this single thin line exiting the continent. That is why two neighbors from different ethnic groups in West Africa hold more genetic differences between them than two people living on opposite sides of the Eurasian landmass. The title, Cradle of Humanity, describes a living genetic landscape, a vast reservoir of diversity that continues to thrive across the continent today. Genetically speaking, the rest of the world isn't a separate entity at all. We are simply a subset of a story that started and continues in Africa.